Hello, and welcome to SCAN's Community Connection. I'm your host, Tom Hayes. My regular day job is Director of Customer and Community Relations for New Jersey Natural Gas. But today I'm happy to be the host of this wonderful program where we really get out there in the community, learn about some wonderful organizations and folks that are doing some really terrific work out there, and really get to educate our members and all of our viewers as to what's going on and what's really happening. And today, I have to tell you, we have a magnificent guest with us. It's Christian Fuscarino, and he is the Executive Director of the Garden State Equality Organization. So, Christian, thank you, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on. It's so good to see you.
So good to see you too. I look forward to the day when we can all be back somewhere and meeting at events and doing some great things and hobnobbing and all those great things that we do in terms of helping out in our community and all that. But for now, we'll have to deal with this. So again, great seeing you. Very good. So I know a lot of folks are going to have a lot of questions or be wondering, what is Garden State Equality all about? So first, I want to go into a little bit of your background. So you have quite a background in advocacy work. So maybe tell us all a little bit about your personal work with social issues and advocacy.
Yeah, thank you for asking. When I think about my background in social justice work, I think about my entire life because I've been doing this work from such a young age up until now. And I really started out in high school doing organizing for LGBTQ student groups, ensuring that gay students, trans students, bi students in school would have a safe place to learn. At the time, it was called Gay Straight Alliances. Now there are LGBTQ student groups, spectrum groups. There's a bunch of different names that are much more inclusive. But at the time, it was really focusing on gay and lesbian students and ensuring that they had a safe space to learn in school. And so that's where I started. And, fast forward to where I am now at Garden State Equality, we do a lot of safe schools work as well. So it's kind of been like a 360 moment for me. I started doing this work because I didn't like feeling the way I was feeling at the time. And I was very uncomfortable in my skin. I felt very nervous when I was in social settings because I felt like I had to hide a piece of who I was. And when I looked out into the world, I saw that I was very different from everybody else, and that there was not a lot of representation in media or in the lessons that we were learning. And there were other students in my school who felt like me as well. And I wanted to make sure that there was a better place for us. So I spent a lot of time in the Gay Straight Alliance that was already established at my school and questioned whether or not other schools had programs like this, were laws in their favor to allow them to start those programs. And there was an organization called GLSEN, the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network, that was doing just that work. And I was able to work with them as a student organizer. I learned a ton of skills that I have taken with me throughout my life. And really, I am the product of hard work from previous generations. All the young people that are organizing today, from folks who are in high school, all the way up to being a young adult, we are the product of folks who sacrificed more so that we could have a better life. And it's really been a responsibility of our lives to continue the important work of moving progress forward. We see a lot of progress made in the laws of our land, but what does lived equality look like when you have laws that are in favor of equality for all human beings? So my work is kind of, started back then, and now living in New Jersey, being the executive director of Garden State Equality, it looks very similar. It's just, we're not fighting to get married. We're not fighting for laws that protect who we are, but we're making sure that there is justice. We're making sure that there's equity in the law now. We're making sure that there's lived equality, and that the quality, we're making sure there's lived equality, and that the quality of life for LGBTQ individuals is as high as it can be. We know that there are still a lot of challenges that face LGBTQ people, especially transgender women of color, who face discrimination and harassment every single day, despite living in a state like New Jersey where the law does protect them. They're falling through the crack many times. They're still being abused and harassed and discriminated against. And so it's ensuring that, with good laws, we also have good training. And that's also a big part of the work that we do today. But I appreciate you for having me on to talk about this, and I hope that we can go a little bit more in depth of the work that Garden State Equality is doing.
Absolutely. So to that end, certainly let's get into Garden State Equality. Maybe give us a little bit of history about the organization, and then we can talk a little bit more about the wonderful work that the organization has been doing, especially, and I mean this, under your leadership.
Well, I appreciate that. It's really an honor of my life to be able to lead this organization with such incredibly talented and smart individuals, from our team to the members of our board, past and present, who have done so much for all the laws and equality that we have in our state. And so this organization started back in 2004. And it was really focused for establishing marriage equality in New Jersey. And for folks who are watching, you'll know that it took quite a few more years for marriage equality to finally come to our state. And in the process of that, we were focusing on other items as well, like banning conversion therapy. Conversion therapy is a practice where parents can send their children to camps that essentially perform child abuse practices in hopes of turning them straight. This is still legal in many states. Folks don't realize this, folks who live in New Jersey don't realize this. Wow. But this is taking place right across the border in Pennsylvania. There are camps like this where, these young people are going into these situations and going through electroshock therapy and practices like that are all deemed as child abuse in hopes of, in their parents' hopes that their children will turn straight. We know that that's not possible, and we know that that's wrong. And so Garden State Equality is one of the organizations that was able to ban that early on. We've always been a very youth-centered, focused organization, and we were able to pass the most comprehensive anti-bullying Bill of Rights at the time in the nation. Lou Ann Peter Paul, who was on the Garden State Equality Board, worked tirelessly to get that passed to protect our young people. For LGBTQ students, it's rare. For LGBTQ students, it's rare. I'm saying students. For LGBTQ children, it's rare for them to have LGBTQ parents. And so as a community, it's really been our responsibility to look out for all of our young people. And that's why there's been such a focus on anti-bullying laws. That's why there's been such a focus on education in schools. It's about protecting them. We're one big family, and we have to look out for each other. In more recent years, we focused a lot on transgender rights and ensuring that transgender individuals have proper access to healthcare, housing, education, that they're treated fairly within the criminal justice system. We've made a tremendous amount of progress over the last few years, but we have so far to go. A lot of that work is going to be training and ensuring that especially state employees that come in contact with transgender individuals treat them with dignity and respect, because there are so many situations where we're not seeing that. It's disheartening. And so we'll continue to push forward and fight for everybody in our community. When marriage equality passed nationwide, a lot of organizations like ours shut their doors and they went home. They said the job was done. And that's essentially leaving the transgender community behind. And we've ensured that that's not the case here in New Jersey, and that's why we continue to push forward.
That's great. It is amazing when you think about how far we've come as a nation, as a state, as a community. But again, we all know, like with many issues, that there's just people out there that they don't care what the rules are, what the laws are. they want to say what they want to say. They want to do what they want to do. They want to mock somebody for being different than them, whatever it might be. And again, that is where this is so important, that we know if we train and teach our youth to be good citizens and do the right thing, that they're going to learn, they're going to appreciate that. They have the ability to understand that even if they're hearing some things at home that aren't quite right or whatever, they'll start, making the right decisions. And, that's why it's critical for an organization like yours to always be there, to be making sure, being kind of the watchdog, to make sure that these things are being taken care of, because it's not the center of everyone's attention all the time. And even well-intentioned people, it doesn't mean that things aren't slipping behind them, or that their kids aren't in school doing bad things, even though they're good people and think they're teaching their kids good things, but to keep your eye on the ball, like you said, and not to just go away because you've got one thing accomplished. It's just important. And I do know from working with you and your organization, even with the gas company support, being with you guys a lot, that you're just trying to constantly bring everybody in, try to be inclusive. Like we all talk about diversity and inclusion is more than just saying, okay, we got a rule, we're done. It's really making sure that we're all embracing it and that people understand. And let's face it, there are some people out there that are and when I say ignorant, I don't mean it in a negative way. They just don't know better, or they're not familiar, or they're not comfortable with it. Doesn't mean they don't like somebody, but they just don't know how to handle the situation, and they'd rather shy away from it, or whatever. And we just need people to be able to speak up, take a stand, and build that strength and that background, so that if they hear somebody being picked on, they can step in and say, hey, that's not right. That's, no reason why this person can't enjoy life just as freely as the rest of us, or, whatever it might be. So really kudos to you and your board and your team and all your volunteers and members and all that, because you're doing the right thing. And that's really what we should be doing on a regular basis. And Garden State Equality is constantly looking at that and looking to do that. So again, I know from our involvement with your organization that you're just trying to do the right thing, and that's important. That's really important.
Sure.
So we talked about, there's these anti-bullying programs and all that. And now you're saying New Jersey has one of the strongest now anti-bullying laws, right? So But doing that, having rules and laws is great, but you are in the schools, trying to get in the schools more and more to make sure that students are really learning, correct? Right?
Right. There's 600 plus school districts in New Jersey, so the work is never done for a small nonprofit.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And are you out of all those schools, about how many are you currently involved with?
So we go to schools in all of New Jersey's counties. It varies month to month. Sometimes there's training time set aside for schools, and it's a busier time of the year. But really, our focus still remains in making sure that students remain safe. We're making sure that educators feel safe in their environment, because if LGBTQ teachers don't feel safe, then how can we expect students to feel safe? And then really another area of our focus recently is LGBTQ inclusive curriculum. And so that requires going into schools and ensuring that they're teaching curriculum that is inclusive of the LGBTQ community and telling the whole story of LGBTQ people's contributions to our society.
Great. Now, Christian, we're going to take a short break, but we do want to come back and continue on that. Really learn more about that curriculum and the different programs that you're working on. So to our viewers, just hang in there. We're going to have a nice commercial break, and we'll be right back with Community Connections in a few moments.
At the Save Green Project from New Jersey Natural Gas, we're bringing you rebates and incentives, including 0% APR financing, right on your natural gas bill to help make energy efficiency affordable. And with the possibility of no upfront costs and special incentives for moderate income customers, investing in equipment upgrades doesn't have to be out of reach. Go to SaveGreenProject.com for details on available rebates and incentives to help you upgrade to energy-efficient HVAC and water heating equipment. You could also be eligible for thousands of dollars in incentives for seal-up and insulation fixes. In the long run, you could be saving money on your energy bills too. Visit us at savegreenproject.com. That's savegreenproject.com.
All right. Well, welcome back to SCAN's Community Connection. Again, we have our wonderful guest, Christian Fuscarino from the Garden State Equality Organization. We're going to continue on, Christian, with our conversation that we started before we went to the commercial break, which was really about schools and the curriculum program that you have. And, first, just so we can clarify for our viewers, this curriculum and the law that was put in place, you guys helped to get that law put in place in New Jersey. And I think from what I understand, California, New Jersey were the first two to have this. And I think, it's starting to roll out a little bit. So maybe talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you everybody for coming back after the commercial break. I know we left you in suspension there. So we're so excited about the LGBTQ inclusive curriculum. California was the first state in the nation to pass an LGBTQ inclusive curriculum law, like you said, Tom. New Jersey was the second. But I do want to just point out, New Jersey was the first state to make it across all relevant subject areas, which is something I'm very proud of. So I always add that to when folks share that fact. We teach it across all relevant subject areas, not just history. So what does that mean? Like, what's in this curriculum? Well, if you're in a math class or a computer science class and you're learning about Alan Turing, one of the world's greatest computer scientists, you'll learn that also Alan Turing was a member of the LGBTQ community. This is important because for young LGBTQ people, if they see themselves reflected in the lessons, they know that they're not alone. We also know from California that bullying rates decrease when all students see LGBTQ people represented in the lessons. If all of a sudden your favorite NBA player or your favorite computer scientist you learn is gay, then you're less likely to bully the gay student in class. And so this is beneficial for everybody. It also ensures that we're telling the full story of who people are. As we know, LGBTQ is often an invisible identity. So while you may be learning about other cultural identities when reading about, people in history, you won't learn about it if it's not mentioned for LGBTQ people. So that's the area of focus. If you're in the English class, you'll be learning about James Baldwin, Langston Hughes, who identified as gay men. If you're in gym, maybe you'll learn about some historical basketball players that are members of the LGBTQ community, like Jason Collins or Derek Gordon, who used to play for Seton Hall. That's the spectrum of what young people can be learning and seeing themselves reflected in the lessons. So we're really proud of that. There's been some pushback, but really, once I tell people that this is what the lessons are, and again, while Garden State Equality pushed the law, each individual school district, it's up to them which curriculum they want to adopt. Garden State Equality did produce curriculum with Make It Better for Youth that schools can use. And those are some of the items that is included in the curriculum, the resources and the lessons that we provide.
That's incredible. So if there was, say, a teacher or a principal or somebody from a school district that wanted to get more information about that, would they reach out to your organization, or is there another location or place you would send them, sort of thing?
Yeah, I would say their first stop should be the website teach.lgbt. So there's no .com, no .org. It's teach.lgbt. And they can go there and take a look at some of the lessons and resources that we put together for them. They can also go to organizations like glisten.org. And then there's some private curriculum companies that provide LGBTQ inclusive curriculum. But I would really, go to the community-based organizations that aren't writing this to meet a quota or to meet annual sales goal. Go to the organizations that are writing it from people that have actually been in the community, from historians that have focused on LGBTQ work for decades. Those are the kind of lessons you're going to get when you get curriculum from nonprofit organizations.
Right. That's great. Good advice. That's excellent. It's funny because there's like we talk about so many important steps and efforts we should be making and all that, and often we forget to tell people where to actually go get that information. So I'm glad that we had the chance to talk about that a little bit. Now, in terms of this, so that you've got the schools covered. Thank you very much for again really pushing hard on that. But like, what other types of training do you do out there for folks in general?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Tom. We're in schools, as I mentioned, but we're also in companies, both small and large. We work very closely with the state of New Jersey to ensure that the Attorney General's office is putting out pro LGBTQ directives. And so really we can do policy reviews to see if policy is up to date on the most progressive language for the LGBTQ community. And really just making sure that there's conversations taking place in the workplace so that LGBTQ people feel comfortable at work and at home. And a lot of companies, including New Jersey Natural Resources, have stepped up to the plate and brought us in to ensure that their policies are in order, but also to go above and beyond to show that LGBTQ people are valued in their workplace. And that really is what is needed, right? We can have equality in the law. Garden State Equality can work to ensure that LGBTQ people are equal in their personal lives, but it's when the companies step up that you're going to be living a full life as an LGBTQ person because you're valued by your employer.
Right. Again, it's critical. I mean, and everybody has to do their part. And like we just were talking moments before about, the school systems and things like that. Now we're talking about little corporations that need to do their part. It's critical. It's like, everybody has to do their part to make sure that it's a fair, balanced playing field for everyone so that we can be this society that we all want to be, all inclusive and everybody getting along with each other and, and enjoying everybody's cultures and their styles, whatever it might be. That's how we have to get there. And if we've not learned anything over these generations, it's that, every time we make these steps, we improve our society. It's not, there's no, like the fear is always, oh, don't do that, this will happen, or oh, repercussions or this backlash of this, and it doesn't happen. We improve, we get better. So again, hats off to you and your organization to help keep pushing that kind of thing forward. And it is important. And I think those who are watching now, whether you're involved in a company, whether you're retired from a company, whether you're a family in a company or in a school or wherever, think of this and take it to heart and say, hey, I should talk to some of my family members and make sure that they're taking advantage of these programs that Garden State Equality is offering so that we can all work together to make this world a better place. So again, it's just terrific work that you're doing, and great. So the training, I know in the companies and all that is just important. It just sometimes it's like a refresher for some people. For some people, it might be the first time they're hearing some of this, or they never really had to think about it, right? So now they hear about it, and now they feel like, oh, all right, I have to do my part. It may wake them up so that the next day when something that's a little bit, not so right goes on, they can speak up and say, oh, that's really not great. I don't think we should tolerate that kind of behavior, or, that's not really that funny a joke. Like just because, you're saying something that's really could be hurtful to somebody that you may not know is in a particular situation or is gay, lesbian, or, that, you don't necessarily know what everybody's backgrounds are. And if you're just throwing out funny things and you think it's great and it's hurting somebody, nobody hopefully intentionally wants to do that. But, that's why we have to be careful. And that's why we need to be educated and trained so that we know the right way to handle one another and to be as fair and as nice and kind and considerate to our fellow man, women, and others.
Mm-hmm. Spot on, Tom. And I know that you have done so much in this regard in the workplaces that you have been in. So thank you for being a leader when a lot of times folks are afraid to have this conversation.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. And, one of the organizations we both know, the American Conference on Diversity, which, we've had our conversations about that and all that. I know you were honored several years ago for your great work, and deservedly so. I mean, you just have done amazing work, and, you do it in a professional manner, a friendly manner, a kind manner. It's always a warm engagement of, conversation. And again, we have to bring in people to the table that may not think the way we do, or may not feel that this is fair or not. And, we're all from different backgrounds, but often when I see it happen, everybody leaves in a much better place. And that's a big part of it. You have to talk about these things. You have to bring it to the forefront. You can't just hide behind it. You can't be shy away from it. It's just, we have a responsibility to our fellow man to speak up and really face these issues head on, to make sure that we're really making life fair for everyone. It's only right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now your organization is housed in Asbury Park, correct?
Yeah, that's where our headquarters are. We are a statewide organization.
Right. But I was going to say, but you do everything everywhere.
Yeah, we're all over the state. And, we honestly, since the pandemic began, we haven't been in our offices. So we're probably even more of a statewide organization now than we were before.
Yes. And it's funny because, we're on this community connections with SCAN, and SCAN, really is an educational organization for seniors and the like. And they too have become very virtual, and it has opened up a new world for all of us. So now you don't have to worry about necessarily being able to drive to a location or things like that. Now you can learn right from your own home. So, maybe there'll be some more and more programming that you'll do for the average man out there, and man and woman, and folks, so that maybe they can just connect to some programs and some training that you do, and have an opportunity to open up their lives a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We remain available for all members of the New Jersey community to help them, push forward. One of the programs that I'm most proud of is the work program that we do in the older adult space, and ensuring that older adults in our community feel safe as they move into these older adult facilities and communities. A lot of times LGBTQ older adults will have spent their entire life fighting for the rights that we enjoy today. And then they'll go back into the closet because they don't feel safe in these environments. That shouldn't happen for anyone.
No.
So we go into these older adult facilities and we do trainings with the staff to teach them how to, be respectful to LGBTQ people. We just passed a law in New Jersey that is going to mandate that all older adult facilities receive this training. And so I'm really hopeful as we move forward for the older adult population, no one should ever have to go back into the closet. And that's why this work is so important. They deserve better.
That's great. And Christian, we're running out of time. So quickly, if people wanted to get a hold of you, what's your website? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, folks can go to www.gardenstateequality.org. And we have all our information on there.
Great. Well, Christian, thank you very much for your time, and thank the whole group at Garden State for all the wonderful stuff you do there. And we appreciate it. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. We hope you learned a lot. And again, come back for more community connections at SCAN. Thank you.